Invest well, live fully, and age powerfully. That's the new wealth. Living well longer. At RBC Wealth Management, we're helping Canadians plan not just for retirement, but for longevity. With 1 in 4 of us expected to live to 100 and many retiring younger, financial planning now accounts for 3 distinct phases: those go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. 45% of our clients are over 65. Many are women, inheriting more wealth than ever, yet facing unique health risks and economic gaps. And 25% of Canadians are caregivers, often supporting both aging parents and adult children. Well, that's why RBC Wealth has partnered with world-class thought leaders and organizations to help our clients build not just financial plans, but life plans that support security, independence, and vitality. You're about to hear from 5 remarkable voices who are shaping how we think and act on aging well in Canada and around the world. Audrey Miller from Elder Caring Inc., Dr. Paula Rochon, Women's Age Lab, Dr. Khalil Sivji from Cleveland Clinic Canada, Dr. Joe Coughlin, MIT Age Lab, and finally Lynn Polson from the Women's Brain Health Initiative. I hope you enjoy what they have to say and what we have to say about investing well, living fully, and aging powerfully.
Financial institutions are not just there to collect your money and lend you money for different parts of your life, but also making sure as you get into those different phases of your life that you're going to have the health that you need in order to appreciate and spend all that hard-earned money that you've saved and invested.
Finance should be looked at as the very electricity that powers longevity. You can't do anything without it, but you need a roadmap that even when you have it, you know what you're going to be buying and what services you're going to need.
People, when they start to lose their cognitive abilities, one of the first signs is mismanagement of their finances. They can no longer balance a checkbook. They no longer can understand what the right amount of change is. These are subtle signs, but a true indication that there's something cognitively going on. As a woman, it just bothered me to know that research focused primarily on men, but women were more susceptible to diseases like Alzheimer's. Something seems to be going on with women's brain health specifically that make us more susceptible.
I noticed that I was prescribing drugs for my older patients who were primarily women that were at doses that were often lower than the doses that were, currently recommended for adults, and wondered why. I started to realize a lot of the research evidence at that time didn't need to include women in the research until the 1990s and didn't need to include older adults until just a couple of years ago, and realized there was a real need to focus, number one, on aging, but also particularly on women.
We don't like to plan. Most of us are in the moment. And when something happens, boom, how do we respond and how do we react? And it's overwhelming. Certainly when someone is unconscious in the hospital and you as a family are there going, what was it that mom wanted? Those are terrible situations to be in. So to be able to start the discussion in a period of calm before there's a crisis, leaving the funeral from someone else, say, what a beautiful service. That's something you'd be interested in. Or going to visit a retirement residence saying, it's great for Aunt Sally. Gee, maybe there's something to be said.
It's interesting. We can see ourselves dead, therefore we buy life insurance, but we can't see ourselves old. We want to think about where are you going to live? Your zip code or your postal code is probably the greatest predictor of quality of life as anything else. What am I going to do? Who am I going to do it with? How will I provide care? How will I receive care? There's got to be a story that is greater than somewhere between cruise ships and crutches. So we're trying to have longevity planning be that.
I think people have no idea what it costs. If you were to have a stroke, how much would it cost you to be off work? What does it cost to have a caregiver? What does it cost to have rehabilitation? Some of which is not covered under OHIP or whatever insurance you have.
We're looking at on average about $40 an hour across Canada to hire a personal support worker. It's over $300,000 to hire from an agency for full-time awake care around the clock. Not very many people have $300,000.
It's also the loved ones around them that have to step out of the workforce in order to help provide that care. So the costs are multifaceted here, and I think it scares a lot of people. So having that conversation is very important.
Over time, as you can imagine, women have more childcare responsibilities, caregiving responsibilities. And at the end of their time in the workforce, women end up with pensions that are about 26% less than they are for men. This is a big issue, especially when you think that women also live longer than men, so they're kind of living longer with less.
Everyone should have exercise built into their schedule. Most studies show that there's a 150-minute per week threshold, but if you exceed that threshold, there's a 30% decrease in mortality. There is no medication on earth that has that effect. And the coolest part about that is that it doesn't matter when you start.
We do know that today, up to 45% of all cases of dementia can be avoided through lifestyle. Well, lifestyle is something we can control. We talk about the 6 lifestyle choices that people can make that the evidence is showing has the strongest protective effect. Nutrition, the way you eat definitely impacts the health of your brain. Exercise, physical activity, social activity is also very important. Stress reduction, because stress prematurely ages all your cells, including your brain cells. Sleep, you need 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night. And mental stimulation, it's all about using your brain in a different way.
And the story still is pretty robust out there, which is that old age and the way they define it is a problem to be solved rather than an opportunity to be won. So companies think, well, old age, that's part of being inclusive. Well, it is, but you can also look at it as a reason to innovate and to excite. In families, we look at old age as either a cost or a problem, or it could be a real opportunity to engage and do other things. So really getting people to globally think differently will bring innovation to policy, corporations, and indeed our own households and families.
Why we age is still a mystery, and we are now learning a lot more about why cells behave the way they do. There's a whole brand of therapeutics that are called senolytics, which means literally to stop aging. There are actually now 2 clinical trials of drugs that are senorejuvenators. The person that's going to live 130 years has already been born. These senorejuvenators and these senolytic medications are going to be around in our lifetime.
One of the things that I would think about is that women, and older women in particular, are no longer invisible in society. But we want to make sure that that group is considered. That's the kind of work that everyone needs to take on. Everyone needs to sort of say, what about women?
I have the perspective of seeing people who maintain a very healthy, functional lifestyle till the very end, and those that suffer with chronic diseases, many of which could have been mitigated or prevented altogether. But what I tell people is, do you want to be that person who loses muscle mass, falls, breaks their hip, ends up in rehab or possibly long-term care, or even worse, dies? And so I try to emphasize to my patients, like, you don't want to get there. Let's rewrite this destiny, which is not written for you, it's written by you, and try to make you live the longest you can and the most functional you can.
Invest well, live fully, and age powerfully. That's the new wealth. Living well longer.